Welcome to On the Bench with Columbus Wired. I am Ashley Gnelzy, the first installment of 2010, and the new year has brought some success to the Blue Jackets, and with that we bring in Dave Seaman. Dave, let's start with some good news first. A 3-game winning streak for the Jackets, but the bad news, they followed that with 2 losses, followed by a loss at home on Saturday against the Chicago Blackhawks.
I think the more important story is the fact that really since Christmas, the Blue Jackets have played very well. With the exception of the game in Chicago last week, where they got shut out and basically got away from checking, something that is a staple of the Hitchcock hockey, they've played well. They've held their opponents to less than 3 goals, with the exception of the game in Vancouver and the game against the Blackhawks Saturday afternoon. And, they've shored some things up defensively. Offensively, on the other hand, still suspect.
Well, let's go with that and talk about some offense, because the Blue Jackets hosted the Blackhawks on Saturday. They lost 5-6. What did you like? What didn't you like?
Well, the Blue Jackets and the Blackhawks played a back-to-back Thursday Thursday at the United Center, Saturday here at Nationwide Arena, and the games were like night and day for the Blue Jackets. Right. In Chicago, there was no checking. They allowed the Chicago defensemen to come up, be a part of the game, and they scored 2 of the 3 goals. Right. Saturday at Nationwide, the Blue Jackets played a complete game. Ken Hitchcock switched the lines up just a little bit, moving Christian Huselius down to the third line and moving Umberger and Vermette with Nash, and it paid off. Rick Nash scored 2 goals tonight. The first time that Nash has scored in 12 games, which matched a career high or a career low, however you want to look at it. And it just seems like the team played a little more in tune tonight.
Right.
They checked, and I think that's the important thing. They checked. There was none of that Thursday in Chicago. And, that part of that is playing on the road, the second of a 2-game road trip. But to come in, do what they did against the Blackhawks, it really is showing some promising future for the Jackets.
We talked about lack of consistency. Have you seen more consistency from the Blue Jackets?
From a defensive standpoint, yes. Your China has been a huge help. And I'll be honest with you, not having Mark Mathot in the lineup has helped. Right. I know I'm not a Mark Mathot fan, but, Chris Russell's back in the lineup. That helped. But also Derek Dorsett returned to the lineup against St. Louis last week. So that helped. As far as consistency, you're not still seeing it on the offensive side. Nobody's scoring on a regular basis. Rick Nash went, like I said, 11 games without scoring. Christian Huselius is a streaky player. He had 3 points against the Blackhawks on Saturday. And, but from an overall team standpoint, it's still not as consistent as you want it to be if you want to contend for a Stanley Cup playoff berth, which, as of right now, it's not happening this year.
All right, coming up for the Blue Jackets, they are at home on Monday facing St. Louis. Then they have a 3-game road trip. They are at Philly, at Boston, and at Minnesota. What needs to happen for the Blue Jackets to have some success?
They just have to continue to do what they're doing. They need to continue to play with confidence. I mean, to put up 5 goals against the Chicago Blackhawks, who shut you out 72 hours ago, that's a good thing, okay? You have St. Louis coming in here on Monday, and, you got embarrassed by them a week ago in St. Louis. And so you have to really come out and you need to make a statement. If you can do that, you get a little bit of momentum, you go on the road, but you got 3 tough places to play there with Philly, Boston, and Minnesota. Minnesota's one of the best teams at home, but, there's a silver lining after that. The Jackets have 7 of their last 9 at home at Nationwide Arena before the Olympic break. That is after this upcoming 3-game road trip. So, I say the Blue Jackets aren't out of it. They went from 14 points out of the last playoff spot to 8 by winning 3 games. All right? They've let that slip here over the last week. They go on a 5 or 6 game winning streak, they're right back in the mix. And if you're within 5 points at the Olympic break, I think you're in good shape going into the final 6 weeks of the season. And there's something else you got to mention, and that is that the trade deadline is March 8th. It is important, March 3rd. It is important that the Blue Jackets do something, get some points, make a move, because if they don't, they're going to be sellers at the trade deadline, and a guy like Raffi Torres is as good as gone.
Right. All right, 2 hot topics for the Blue Jackets: goaltending and defense. Dave, take it away.
Let's start with. We kind of talked about the defense.
Right.
They're playing better. Okay. Maybe part of that is that Mark Mathot's not been in the lineup, although he is eligible, or he could be back in the lineup sometime in the next week or so. Yerchina's been a great addition to this team. Mike Commodore, after his self-imposed couple games off, has really played a lot better. Him and Hayda tonight played very well. The guy that I'm worried about right now is Anton Strawman.
Yeah.
He was on the ice for 3 of the 6 Chicago goals this afternoon or on Saturday afternoon, and he's struggling. So, maybe you move Mathot out or you bring Mathot back to the lineup. Maybe Strawman comes out for a couple games.
Right.
The beautiful thing about what's going on with a healthy defenseman, and you got to mention Matthew Waugh in there as well.
Yeah.
Hitchcock has depth, and that's something we haven't had in a while. And it's I could very easily see 6 defensemen on this team for the short term. Now, as far as goaltending is concerned, Matthew Garon started 6 straight games. He was the NHL's 3rd star of the week a week ago. Had a shutout, played lights out hockey. Mm-hmm. Steve Mason played on Saturday, gave up 6 goals.
Yeah. Who's going to start Monday?
I'm pretty safe to say Garon's going to be back in net, but it isn't all Steve Mason's fault against the Blackhawks. They are the best team in the NHL for a reason, or they're the second best team. I personally feel they're the best team. They have the most firepower. When you have 8 defensemen, they have 8 folks, that are scoring threats,
Right.
they're a dangerous team. I mean, right now, they're my pick to win the Stanley Cup.
Right. All right, I'm going to go Jim Moore on you guys real quick and say playoffs?
Not happening. Not this year. We got teased. We got teased with it last year, and we won 3 games last week. We were able to kind of get back to within 10 points, 8 points to be exact. Then you lose 3. You win 3, you lose 3. You cannot play 500 hockey the rest of the way. If the Jackets can win 3 out of 4 games the rest of the way, like they could, they have that potential. Mm-hmm. They might make it interesting in March. But the way they're playing right now, the inconsistencies that we were talking about, they're not a playoff team.
Well, let's hope they can make it interesting in March. And folks, that's a wrap. He's Dave Seaman. I'm Ashley Knelzy, and until next time.